Hey everybody, it's Angela and I am back with another process video, and I have gone shopping in my stash and pulled out a bunch of stuff I may or may not use on this layout, and a lot of it is basic gray, fact and fiction, and I think like the Hey You collection as well. And there's some of the 3x4 cards and some of the flowers from that collection and brads, and even these letters, which I don't wind up using, some gold hearts I don't wind up using, but just pulled a bunch of stuff so that I could use that kind of as my kit. And then these are the two papers I'm going to use, and they're from Note to Self, which is an Echo Park collection, which is, somewhat old. And I'm going to scrapbook this picture of myself, and I am holding a certificate because I had passed my ham radio technician test. And this was kind of a big deal for me because it had a lot of technical stuff on there, and I only knew like the day before that I was going to take this test, and I didn't realize there was quite so much information that I had to learn. I thought it was just going to be learning some of the jargon and etiquette for speaking on a ham radio, but they actually make you learn all the information from, current and voltage and Ohm's law and transformers and everything. I mean, pretty much like you're going to build a radio station instead of just talk on the radio. So I spent over 10 hours studying for this so I could take the test the next day. And I was almost in tears at one point. I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. It's just too much technical information. I mean, I remember I had a little bit of that in high school physics class. But yeah, so I had to learn it all again. And then the next day I went in and took the test, and I only missed 3 questions so off the whole test. So I was so excited, and I've got my call sign and everything now. So I wanted to document this. My husband took the picture of me afterwards. He took the test too. He only missed 1, but he's actually an electrician, so there wasn't as much that he needed to learn. He had already been exposed to it. So anyhow, while I've been talking, I've been working on this design, and it's just putting a kind of slight diagonal piece of paper there, and then I just want to put my picture over the seam and put a cluster of embellishments around it and put my journaling down the left hand side. So that's kind of what I know going into this, and I wanted to put some black sprinkles on the page before I put all my embellishments down. So I'm just going to use these shimmers. Are they aquatones? I don't know, the little ones that you have to put the water on and hydrate them before you can use them. So I just spritz some water in there, and then I'm using my paintbrush to put down some splatters because I wanted them to be relatively small splatters, kind of where I was going to put my photo. And so I'm liking that, and I decided to use graph paper on this because, it's kind of a technical it was a technical test that I was taking, so I wanted to kind of give a nod to that. So using the graph paper kind of reminded me of that. And then I wanted to put a strip of this brown paper, which I used to map my photo, between the 2 triangular pieces there. So I just traced out the triangle, and now I'm taking a strip of that, and I'm going to adhere it behind my blue graph paper there, just to give a nice clean edge. And so because the colors are a little muted, the picture was taken indoors, so it's a little bit darker, and there's a lot of wood tones in the photo, and I'm wearing some blue in the photo. I think when we went, we weren't sure it was even going to happen because had been snow and everything, but they actually still did the test that weekend, so I was able to go. So it was pretty cold, and so I think I'm wearing a scarf in the picture, and so I went ahead with the browns and blues in the background papers, but then I'll bring in color when I put my embellishments down because I don't want it to get too dark. So I'm liking that. And that's about where I'm going to put the picture. I'm not sure at this point if I'm going to put it straight on the page or a little bit tilted. At that point, I'm thinking tilted. And now I decide I need to start looking through some of these embellishments that I picked out. And I also wanted to figure out where my title was going to go. And in order to kind of figure that out, I decided I'd better choose my font. And those basic gray alphas were just a little bit too chunky for me. I wanted something a little narrower. So I went into my thickers and I wanted to go with black. And I was undecided between these two fonts. And this one's sparkly, which is why I liked it. And I liked that it was kind of funky font-wise, kind of a cursive. And I'm just going to use it to spell out my call sign, which is K17KKG. So if any of you out there, CQ, Kilo 17, Kilo Golf, calling CQ. So I went ahead and put that out on there, and then I decided to go ahead and spell out the title also with this other font. So I go ahead and put that down, and I'm wait until the end to decide which one to use. And I do wind up going with the bottom one just because it was a little easier to read. But I wasn't sure if I was going to put it down there, along the diagonal, above my photo. But I'm thinking ultimately I want to put it right up there and then have my journaling run down the left-hand side of the page. So now that I know where my title's going to go, I decide to start pulling out embellishments. And I have these pieces which I had just pulled out of a bin of loose items that I don't know who the manufacturer is or anything like that. And ultimately, I don't think I use any of those. So as you can tell, I don't really have anything in my mind except that I want to use the supplies I've pulled to make a cluster around the photo. So I thought, okay, I'm going to dive into these cut apart cards from the Basic Gray collection. And I think that one is maybe the capture cards from Basic Gray. And the other tags that I cut apart are from the Fact and Fiction Basic Gray, but they all kind of coordinate along with the Hey You, Hey Boy, and Hey Girl collections were all put out by Basic Gray about the same time, and they discounted them really heavy at Joann's when they got rid of them, and I love the collection, so I bought up a bunch. I have duplicates of things, and I really like it. So, and it also has a lot of graph paper elements in it, so that kind of goes along with my background page. And I'm just pulling out things that have the blues and the browns and the graph paper. And I like that one with the numbers on it because it's kind of technical. I like that one because it has a little bit of scallops on the bottom, so it kind of, brings in another shape. And I also like underneath that notes that's a transparency there, so you can still see the black sprinkles showing up through that transparency, but it brings a little bit of red into that. So I use my ATG to kind of get those held in the place that I want. And then I'm going to go back with a little bit of liquid glue, some Scotch Quick Dry, and just put a little bit of liquid glue under there to make sure everything stays put. And so that gives me a little cluster to ground my photo. And then, I went to go get some thread. So I went and pulled some black thread and some red just to kind of I have a lot of straight lines going on here, and so I just wanted something a little more organic, that would kind of flow out from behind the photo and, you know, pull in some extra red color and bring the black from those sprinkles in as well. And then I'll have black in my title and my journaling. So I'm just placing a bunch of that under the photo just to kind of soften that up. And then I'm going to use some of this adhesive foam from Walmart to back my photo just to give that a little bit of lift. So I'm liking how this is coming together. And then when I went to place my photo, I had to decide if I was going to put it tilted or not, and I decided to straighten it up. So that's what I've got so far. So now I go into more of my dimensional items, and I wanted to put some flowers, but I didn't want it to get too flowery. So I pulled some of these brads from the Basic Gray collection, and there was only 2 of them, and they have like a string that runs around and around, and so they're more like a rosette than an actual flower. And then these are like little fabric yo-yos, and I like that they bring in a little bit of a touch of red on there to go with those numbers and that transparency that I've already got. So I'm liking that. It gives a touch of flowers and a round element without being too girly. And then that's also from the Basic Gray collection, and it's kind of a felt flower type thing. And so it's kind of cool. So I just put 1 to kind of ground that bottom right hand corner. So at first I was going to glue that brad down, but then I decided to actually adhere it as a brad, but I do need to support that one side of the yo-yo, so I put a little bit of foam adhesive behind that since my photo's popped up and it's on top of the photo. And then I take the brad and I go ahead and just use my paper piercer to make a little hole to stick the brad legs through. And that's just going to kind of go underneath my photo. So I'm liking that. And then this one I'm putting a little bit of score tape and some liquid glue on it. And just putting a little bit of liquid glue underneath these other items. They came already with like a Zot behind them, but they're kind of old, so I figured I better add some liquid glue as well. I had that one wood button there that I have next to that right there that I put under the photo, and that has been just loose in my little dish on my desk for a while, so I was glad to get that on a layout. And then I also used one of the flare buttons from the Basic Gray collection that says I Heart Science. So I'm just pulling out a lot of little round elements. I look at these buttons, but then I decide not to go with those since I already have the other round elements. Look at some of these other items. I like these. They're canvas pieces. So I really wanted to get one of those on there, but that banner just didn't quite fit in the cluster right. It left too much trapped space in there. But I do find one that has some colors that looks like, yeah, just a little piece of washi, so I stick that behind my photo just to bring some extra color and texture of the canvas up there. And then these are some October Afternoon little flyers. I don't know if you remember these. They're somewhat older, and it just has a little toothpick that you wrap a flag around. And it just gives you a cute little flag to stick there. So I want to put that coming out from behind my photo. And at first I put it up on some foam to kind of stick up there, but then I decide that I want to put this little burlap bow, and if I used both the foam adhesive and the bow, it stood up a little bit too high. So I took the foam back off, and I'm just going to glue the flag directly to the layout. And then I'll put my little burlap bow, and that's been loose on my desk for a while too, so I was glad to get that. I think I have a whole nother pack of them. I think this was the end of the first package, but I had gotten 2 packages of them at Tuesday morning because they're so cute. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the bow on my flag. And then I had covered up quite a bit of my thread with my embellishment, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull a little bit more of the black and red thread and stick under a couple corners, just to make sure, you know, that enough of it shows out of the edges. So I'm really liking how this one's coming together. And so I decided, instead of writing on the background and taking a chance of messing it up, and I had a lot of text that I wanted to write, so I decided to just do it on my computer. That way I know I'm not going to mess it up. And I like just having it as a column there along the left-hand side. And then I put my call sign across the top, and I'm going to call this one done. So yeah, a little bit different for me with this triangle background paper, but I really love how it turned out. You know, at first I was worried it wasn't going to be colorful enough because I was using all those browns and blues in the graph paper. But after I got the embellishments on there, there was plenty of color, and it's still whimsical and fun without being too girly, since it was a more of a, you know, not serious but kind of technical thing that I was doing. And so that is my finished layout. So thank you guys so much for watching, and if you have any questions on any of these products or any of the things that I did, just leave me a comment down below, and I will talk to you guys again next time. Bye!